Let's go to item number 7, which is on our regular meeting agenda this evening, is conduct a public hearing to adopt an ordinance to amend the development regulations of a planned development number 40 corridor commercial and adopt a concept plan and building elevations for a property generally located south of State Highway 121 and west of Waters Road. Mark Kubinsad.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Started by orienting you to the site here. You can see the site is at the far north end of our city, generated along the Highway 121 frontage. Get you a little tighter to get you some more bearings. And again, our aerial is somewhat dated, but this is the Star Creek site, Lifetime Fitness, and as you get to the west, this is where the Harley-Davidson site is being developed. West along State Highway 121, creek running at the far south end of the site, just to kind of give you a little bit of the orientation of this property. This is Zone PD 40 commercial corridor, and it's surrounded by commercial corridor base zoning districts, PD 40 to the west and south, and a PD 92 commercial corridor to the east. Also of note, just to the south of the property, right where the PD 40 commercial corridor is shown, if you recall, adjacent to the south of that was subject to the zoning case that came through not too long ago with the townhome development that had been part of the same plan development. So, but that's just a little bit off the screen to further orient you to the site. So as we're looking at the site, north is to the left here, State Highway 121 along the left side of the screen. I'm having two access points on this property. The property boundary is highlighted in red here. But the two access points, one being along State Highway 121, and then the second one being a cross access through Star Creek. Providing the main circulation points, the fire lane is highlighted here as well, showing an amenity pond to the far south end, and then to the south of that would be the floodplain and detention areas. Well, it would serve as a detention, but it would be the floodplain areas. Outside of this area, it's conceptual. It's not part of the PD. Just to the west on the bottom of the screen, showed that property just to show us what it could develop as. We always like to have an idea that there's going to be an orderly development pattern for something in the future. That building is conceptual in nature and would just show that there is a potential of this property is not being. It's not a remnant piece that doesn't have any development potential, and it's clearly the case here, as shown by the conceptual plan. But it's not part of this proposed PD. This legal boundary of this PD is what's shown in red. Go through the building elevations here. We're largely staying within the requirements for masonry. There's some accent materials that are being provided here. Here you can see the two different elevations, the south elevation, the west elevation of the property. And before you're going to see it in the next slide, I'm going to jump back really quick on this. Call your attention to this was outlined in the staff report, but the property is being proposed to be developed in two phases. You can see the building phase line shown here. The reason I jump back to this is because you're going to see two different versions of elevations in your council communications. The first phase of the building would have a lot of the target range uses. The phase 2 of the building would be an indoor ski range type of use as well. So you're going to see two north facades on this building elevation. So here's your south and west. There's just that, and then your north and east elevations. The north elevation is your phase 1, which would be, I guess, your temporary north elevation. Obviously, the south elevation stays the same as phase 1, and as you go to the phase 2, the partial west and partial, you kind of have your partial elevations as you go farther to the north, right? And then you have phase 2 north elevation, partial east elevations. Those are connected here. You can see the adjoining line for your partial east, two partial east elevations here. That's where those lines would join. The materials that are being provided in here, so they're largely masonry. You'll see a call out for a wood siding on here. It's an Ipe wood siding. We had them call that out specifically for the material. Just and wanted to review that from its hardiness, its pest resistance, things like that. Obviously, that acts differently over longevity and over time than a typical wood. This is not like a cedar shake kind of, type of siding. This is a high dense material. It's used quite often in construction for decks, things like that. In areas that are going to have a high traffic, areas that are going to have that just need to be resistant. So this is a high quality product. We've reviewed it through our building official as well before offering that recommendation as an alternative building material, and it's being used in a small amount anyways. So things that are part of this request, and a lot of these are normal, things you usually see. Obviously the concept plan comes in as part of the development regulations. That concept plan to be generally consistent with that concept plan as you move forward. Building elevations as they were presented, it would be held to those. Additional permitted uses being called out as part of the PD. Target range, specifically in this case in firearm sales and service. And as a quick aside, you'll start to see firearm sales and service go away as permitted uses, as they would be considered as retail moving forward as in other uses. That's per a recent opinion of the OIG, but building materials, and those are what were provided and shown on the building elevations. This item did go through Planning and Zoning Commission. There were a number of comments from the public at that meeting. Staff did recommend approval of this at that meeting, and Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval as well. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. I know the applicant has a presentation that's loaded, so when you're ready for that, give me the heads up. Let's take a moment to load that up.
I have one. Are there any types of zoning that would allow this usage by right?
Sure. The target range itself would have to come through an SUB. But the firearm sales and service, as stated, that would come through as a retail. So that would be allowed by right, where retail would be allowed. But the target range would go through a specific use permit.
Thanks.
Any other questions for the public hearing or the applicant's presentation? We'll go ahead and have the applicant's presentation since it's loaded.
Sure.
Mayor Terrell, Mayor Pro Tem Kaplinger, council members. My name is Bo Talplacido. I am the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Partner for Ally Outfitters. I'm going to do a quick introduction for the technical advisory panel that I have here. Frank Richardson is our owner rep and design architect. Mark Pross, who is not here today, is our project architect for Pross Design Group. Zach Grimes is here right behind me with Cross Engineering Consultants. Kelly Parma, Lee Engineering. Lee Engineering was the traffic impact study. And Greg Hughes with WJHW did the sound study, and Aaron Ludwig from Action Target, who will be building our range, will be here to answer any questions about lead handling and range safety. So I'll go ahead and bring Frank up right now.
Good evening. Again, my name's Frank Richardson. I'm the design architect in this project. I have recently retired from Pross Design Group, but I'm still working on their behalf on this project, as well as working directly with Ally Outfitters and as an owner representative on the project. What I wanted to discuss with you briefly is what's going on inside this building. The main entrance is in this area right here. It is a covered driveway to allow people to access the building and keep dry during inclement weather. You enter the building into the retail area. We have about a 7,000 square foot retail area for as well as firearms. There are things having to do with clothing, with archery, with fishing, anything having to do with outdoors. We're kind of like a mini Cabela's in a way. As we go farther back into the building, we have training facilities where we would have classes for firearm safety. We have office area on the first floor down here. One aspect of our business is going to be online sales of all of the items that we have for sale in the building. So we will have a number of people here in a bullpen type of arrangement handling online sales. Right next to the office area is a warehouse area that is warehousing for both retail and also kind of a fulfillment center for the online sales. We then have our ranges for our 25-yard ranges for pistol shooting, and that would be, then this wall here is phase 1, is the end of phase 1. Phase 2 would be the indoor skeet shooting range, which this would be the only one of its kind in the state of Texas and really within in the southern region. There is currently one in Atlanta and one in Utah, and we would be the third one in the country. As you go to the second level, again, we have more office space. It's more of our administrative office area. We do have like a membership, a club membership. So we have a room up there which is for the use of club members. There's an outdoor patio that overlooks the amenity ponds and the wetland area. And then we have room for expansion on the second floor. That is it for my presentation. If you have any questions at this point, I will turn it over to Zach, the civil engineer.
I do have one question. What's the timing on the phases, phase 1 and phase 2?
Assuming we are successful with all of our approvals and our reviews by the engineering department and everything else, we expect to start construction in probably Q4 of this year, with completion of phase 1 in Q4 of 2020. Phase 2 is somewhat dependent on, the economics, the successful economics of phase 1, but we would hope to start construction of phase 2, all things considered, perhaps in early 2021 for completion later in that year.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
So I think Mr. Kerbensade actually covered most of the stuff on the civil engineering side. The only other thing I'd like to note, other than the fact that we'll have nice amenity ponds that we want to kind of keep as a nice landscape area, is that in the phase 1 portion, the area that is phase 2 will actually be landscaped and be well taken care of, so it won't be an eyesore. Do you guys have any questions on the civil engineering side? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Kelly Parma with Lee Engineering. We performed the traffic impact study for the site as requested by the city, and also TxDOT required the study as well, wanting access off of a state facility of State Highway 121. So you can, this shows the proposed site aerial view, where it's located between Stacy Road and Waters Road. There will be access as seen by the site plan on 121 Frontage Road, as well as through the Star Creek Retail Development via Waters Road. This shows the proposed driveway. We're just adding a right in, right out on the frontage road. It's one way, so you're kind of limited to where you can go and where you can come from. One of the questions the city had, is number of trips will be generated. There is no such thing as a gun range in the typically accepted standard for a trip generation manual. So we looked at a couple of couple of possibilities, analyzed which one made more sense, took the more conservative approach. City had another question about if that was using a bowling alley was appropriate. There's a similar facility in Midland. We did counts there. It came up that the numbers we used in the study were representative of what we expect or what was shown in Midland. This is just a sample of the volumes that you expect at the driveway on the frontage road. Like I said, TxDOT has seen the TIA. They've approved the TIA, are okay with the driveway as shown. It meets their standards and spacing requirements. I'll bring up Greg.
Good evening. My name is Greg Hughes. I'm principal at Wrights & Johnson, Haddon & Williams. We're an acoustical consultancy out of Carrollton, Texas. And we were tasked with reviewing noise emission from the property to the environment. Our analysis used the building construction and property lines as defined by the architectural drawings, and we inserted several firing positions as our noise sources. As our noise sources, we used measured data that we collected from the City of Plano police training facility, and it included 45 caliber handguns, 223 fully automatic rifles, and we also used some data that we got offline for 12 gauge shotguns. Conservatively, we had all sound sources, all shooting positions firing at the same time at maximum level, so that while this may not be the most typical use of the building, it would be the absolute worst case scenario that we could think of for the facility. In addition, we had a two-phase approach to the actual calculations of this. We calculated what the interior noise level generation would be from all these noise sources, and we calculated that as how it would be transmitted to the exterior of the building and what the total transmission of sound would be exterior. The second phase was then to take that noise emission and calculate out how it was transferred to the environment, and we developed noise contours around the property. Knowing that the nighttime noise level limit for the City of Allen is 58 dBA, we set our limit line at 58. You'll notice that is the red line on the graph, and it is well within the property boundary. We are confident that the noise level limits based off of the construction that we have agreed to with the architect will not exceed the noise level limits at the property. Just for a couple of reference points, we noted that the west property line, which would be the closest, was 57 dBA. At the east property line, it would be 56 dBA. And to the south, at the residential properties, it would not exceed 45 dBA.
Can you go back one slide?
Maybe. Previous, there we go.
So the higher decibels, is that around the phase 2, the shotgun?
Yes, I believe that is the specifically the 50-yard range, but yes, that would be phase 2.
Got it. Thank you.
That's good.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Information that was provided, it was talking about the coating on the walls. Is that a sound deadener?
I'm sorry, interior to the building?
Correct.
Yes, sir. We did, as part of our interior modeling, we did have acoustically absorptive materials on walls and ceiling in the shooting ranges.
Thank you.
Aaron Ludwig with Action Target, and I get the fun part. They build the building, and I get the one who turns it into a shooting range. We're based out of Utah. We are by far the largest provider of shooting range equipment in the world. You've heard from me before. I am providing some of the shooting range equipment at other shooting ranges here in the city of Allen. Here's an example of what you're seeing at the previous Ally location in the Midland-Odessa area. Same equipment that you have seen at other very high-end shooting ranges. We are in charge of the ballistic capabilities of the range, make sure everything stays in. We're also in charge of cleaning the air and the air filtration systems. So I'm here to address any questions you might have in that nature. But know that they're not building it themselves, and that they are using a company who is very familiar with this and has done it many times.
Good, thank you.
All right, so I get to come back up now, and this is the fun part. They get to talk about all the boring stuff. So just to kind of give you some background, we did hint towards that our organization has done a very similar facility to this in Midland, Odessa. As you can tell from some interior pictures, it is a very high-end facility, high-end materials. So I'll click over to the next slide. This is part of our VIP lounge out in Midland. A surprise that we want to drop in today. We currently are sponsoring 6 juniors and actively seeking more. Hint, hint, guys. Also, we're sponsoring 6 adults, including world champion shotgun competitor Shay Self, who is in attendance here, and a local police department sworn officer who is also one of our sponsored athletes. We also work with a lot of charities. The 2 main charities we do work with was Wishes for Warriors. To date, about $18,000 we've donated, and Guns and Hoses, which I believe they're going to be here today to speak on our behalf, about $32,000. And we will. If I didn't say it earlier, I am a resident of the city of Allen, so I'm very committed to the city. We will be sponsoring the Allen Eagles competitive shooting team, and we are also a current Chamber of Commerce member at the platinum level, so that just shows our commitment to the city of Allen. If you have any other questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Are you going to be allowing folks to come in and rent firearms?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? We're good.
Okay.
We'll go to the public hearing at this time. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this particular item may do so at this time. I have received several cards, a bunch of cards. First one is, I guess it's J.C. Setzler. Setzler.
Well, first off, I'm a terrible public speaker, so you'll have to bear with me. Basically, I came a long way to come up here and tell the council that I believe in this project and believe in Bo, and believe it'll be good for the city of Allen too. I've sat and watched the one that was mentioned in Midland, the Ally store there, and it actually draws people in from a long way off. I live probably an hour and 45 minutes from Midland, and that's where I go to shop. I've seen it benefit Midland, and I honestly believe in my heart that it'll benefit Allen too. That's what I came here to say. Thank y'all for y'all's time.
Thank you. Sarah Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I actually have no opposition in specific to gun ranges, but I do have some concerns about adding another one. So in the U.S., there's approximately 16,000 to 18,000 gun ranges, indoor firing ranges specifically. There's 11 within 20 miles of Allen. 2 are within 10 miles. The Bullet Trap, I live in Plano off of Custer and 121, so that's why I am here today, because it is quite close. But when we opened up the Bullet Trap in Plano, there's been at least 2 suicides, and those are just the ones that made the news. The one in Louisville has had at least 2 suicides, same with Mesquite, Frisco Gun Club. As a general rule, there's no license or advanced training required for using a shooting range. There also is no requirements for renting a weapon in general. The shooter generally has to be at least 18 to 21 years old, but as we've seen from unfortunately some viral videos, there are also children about 8 to 9 years old as long as they have parental supervision. There was, of course, unfortunately, the 9-year-old that killed her instructor with an Uzi. Gun ranges also typically have a supply of kitty litter to clean up blood. They also generally will have a company that they work with in order to bring out bodies, unfortunately. Thefts are actually a major problem. The incidents I'm going to mention are strictly from this year alone, of which we just started June. 29 guns were stolen from Broadview Heights in Ohio in February. 37 guns were stolen in March from an indoor shooting range in Monmouth, Illinois. And while the article didn't give a number, there were multiple firearms stolen in April from a gun club in Athens, Georgia. In May 2018, I'm sure you all heard about the customer in the parking lot of Cypress that was killed by a stray bullet from a gun being cleaned. December 2017, a man fatally shot in a Houston area gun range parking lot. I am glad to hear about the lead concern being addressed. It is a very major concern. OSHA standards right now are that employees must stop working if they have a blood lead level of 60 micrograms per deciliter of blood. Most of them can return as long as it drops below 40 for 2 consecutive tests. But as low as 5, the heart health, brain function, and kidney function have been connected to that amount because there's no amount of lead that is safe. So I'm just very concerned regarding some of these issues. Sometimes failing ventilation equipment is to blame, but in general, anytime you fire a weapon, you will have lead exposure. In fact, there was a review of lead exposure at shooting ranges in Laidlaw published last month that nearly all participants in the 36 studies have lead levels above that 5. And when they inspected firing ranges in the last few decades, the agency has commonly found lead contaminations. Says it's 30 years of sampling. They haven't done very many, but the more visits you take to a range, the higher your blood level. So I am in opposition to this, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Doris Murdoch.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Doris Murdoch, and I am a resident here in Allen. I am also on the board of directors for the Guns and Hoses Foundation. And as Ally Outfitters had pointed out earlier, that they are in support of Guns and Hoses Foundation, have been a big supporter for us. So that's not the only reason for me to be here. It's also because of the fact that I do live here in Allen. But I would like to tell you a little something about, if you don't already know about the Guns and Hoses Foundation, we support the families of the fallen. And in order to do so, we do depend on sponsorships, which Ally Outfitters has come on board with us just recently. They're the ones who reached out to us, not us going to them. So I want you to realize that this is a business, but it's also a business with a heart. They look out for their community. As you know, Bo is also a resident of Allen, so bringing this in here to our community. Guns and Hoses already is here for an event that we do. This is our 5th year to have brought our event here to Allen. As y'all probably know, we do this at the Allen Event Center. It's coming up again in September, and we see other events that could be here in Allen because of Ally Outfitters. So we are here in support of him, but one of the other things that this will do is it is a support for law enforcement. It's not just about what he does also in the community, but think about your law enforcement. These officers are required to qualify once, sometimes twice a year. In order to do so, it may be that it's on a day that they're off to go do their practicing, before they have to do any of the shooting that is their qualifications. There's not ranges for them to go do this. There's not anything that's like this that's indoors, and this gives them an opportunity indoors to do so. And this is not only for police officers, it's all law enforcement, your deputies, anybody can come to Allen to do this. So it's not going to be just the Allen Police Department or our constables or our sheriffs. It is a community-wide. But like I said, for the aspect of guns and hoses, not only because of what they give to us, but we know what they will give to the city of Allen and what they will bring here to the city. We just wanted to show our support today and hope that you will consider bringing them here to Allen. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Dave Cornett.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I apologize, I got a headache, so I might stumble a little bit here, but I'm completely in support of this. I was here the last time when the kids were here from the high school, and when they talked about how they were 7 clays short of a state championship again, and how they had to travel so far to practice, just makes sense to allow this to go up. And to have something local instead of traveling 10 miles to a different city, whether it be indoor, and of course I don't see an outdoor coming to Allen. That's too bad, but I understand that. I think there's no reason not to build this, not to allow this to go through. I think it would be criminal not to. I think it would be wrong. It would be anti-American, anti-Texan to not allow this to go through. I wasn't even going to speak until I heard there was people against this thing, which I cannot imagine. Why would somebody be against something, especially if it's going to help these kids in the school? Got a place I can take my granddaughter when she gets of age so she can properly learn her safety. They have the safety programs up there, which will allow these kids to safely train in firearms, which I think is big as the problem we have today. I know a little something about firearm safety. A lot of people don't. And a place for them to, another place for them to go and learn to safely fire weapons just makes sense. And to take this economic opportunity away from this area would just be insane. I'm registered to vote here, and I do vote. I will be watching.
Thank you. And I think this is Craig Misteller or Miss Feller?
That's Craig Misfeld.
Okay.
I'm a lifetime resident of Dallas-Fort Worth. I was born in Dallas. I'm not a resident of Allen, but I live in Mansfield for the last 10 years. I've worked in the firearms distribution and manufacturing business for the last 13 years. I've visited ranges and stores all over the United States, and the Ally facility in Midland is one of the nicest places I've ever been. Any city in Texas would be lucky and blessed to have an Ally facility in their city, and I hope you guys will approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Vasquez.
Hello. Hello, Allen City Council. My name is Chris Vasquez, student activist in the Collin County area. I am defending the public safety of the young children and students that reside in the city of Allen today. Many of you on this Allen City Council and in the audience have children and or grandchildren to whom you care deeply for. Their safety and future presumably is important, I'm sure, to all of us. Well, this range and that will be voted on today can have many unintentional consequences, and one of those consequences, not often talked about, relates to the lead. As a student myself who graduated just a year ago in the District of Collin County, I had the opportunity of being mentored by a pediatrician, and the most important aspect of the field of pediatrics, of course, is child development. Factors that contribute to growth and development is the environment in which a child is raised in, along with a host of other factors. A large inhibitor to growth and development of children would be associated to lead. The danger presented by the project could hinder the development and growth of children as a direct result of lead that could be attributed to ranges like the ones we're talking about being built today. So, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, there is no safe level of lead exposure in children, with lasting decreases in cognition documented in children with blood levels as low as 5 micrograms per deciliter of lead in blood. At that level, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention recommends evaluation and intervention. However, all elevated lead levels are a concern. There is no safe level. In fact, the American Academy of Pediatrics, which, when they called in 2016 for stricter regulations and other measures to be taken from the city to national level, they stated that preventing young children from ever coming into contact with the metal would have substantial population-wide benefits, saving more than 20 million total IQ points among U.S. children and billions of dollars in annual costs associated with lead exposure. For every $1 invested to reduce lead hazards in housing units, for example, society would benefit by an estimated $17 to $221, a cost-benefit ratio comparable with that for childhood vaccines. We should protect our young children from the dangers of lead poisoning today, which the new facility would present to us. And of course, multiple studies have showed exactly what I've been saying, especially the one in Washington in 2010, showing 20 children in a Washington indoor shooting club show that they test positive for lead after a year-long investigation by the Seattle Times. So today I ask for you to please consider opposing this fire range. Thank you so much for your time, and hope that will get through. Thank you.
Thank you. David Lyons.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I was the guy that spoke about the 7 clays that we missed at the zoning and planning meeting. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the Allen Eagles competitive shooting team. We compete in the Scholastic Clay Target Program in basically 3 disciplines of shotgun shooting: skeet, trap, and sporting clays. As the gentleman mentioned previously, the 2 ranges that we currently practice at, one is in Waxahachie and the other one is in Leonard. Both of them are outdoor ranges. We do all of our competitions outdoor. But having this facility here locally would give us a lot of opportunities for additional training, bring in new members. We can spend some more time with them to get them up to speed, so that when we do get to our outdoor competitions, they're better prepared. And safety is obviously an absolute critical aspect of the training that we do with our athletes before we take them out onto the range. A couple statistics, if you will. We're 6-time state champions, 3-time national champions. As we mentioned, the state championship eluded us by 7 targets this year. So I can only imagine if we had had a facility like this a little bit sooner, probably would have helped us out a little bit on that. The 2 facilities, again, like I mentioned, are quite a ways away. It takes us at least an hour to get there. It makes practicing during the week very difficult. So it's typically something that's only done on the weekends, which, again, kind of puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage. We've had several of our athletes go on to compete at the college level for scholarships or as scholarship athletes for various colleges. So I'm speaking here for myself and probably reflect some of the feelings of some of the other members of the team, but I think we're definitely in support of this moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. David Schaefer.
My name is David Schaefer, and I'm going to speak in support of this. Unlike the individuals that have spoken against it, I've actually worked for a shooting range. In fact, it was the Bullet Trap. Now, that is an older building, floating slab, absolutely no protection on the outer wall, so you can hear noise when you get out of your vehicle. At a more modern range, that noise is muffled greatly. As far as lead is concerned, the ventilation systems, from what we see now compared to what was in the bullet trap when I first started working there, have come a long way. You're not going to have a lead concern. What you do have a concern of is curiosity in small children. Where you have children get a hold of firearms and catastrophe happens is when they don't have a clue what they're dealing with. They see it, they think it's on what they see on TV, they think it's their toy, and you've got a problem. You teach a child safety, there's never an issue. They know not to touch it. I can guarantee that. Why? As y'all already know from last time I spoke, I have 2 daughters. I've owned firearms my entire adult life. When my youngest was 5 years old, I had a firearm broken apart to clean. She walked in. I thought I was doing a great job keeping them locked away from her. She walked into my bedroom and told me step by step how to put it together. And that's how I ended up buying a gun safe to keep them out of it. And that's also the first time I knew I had to teach them. Don't touch a firearm. This is what happens if you do without adult supervision. Keeping them hidden didn't help at all. Training them, teaching them, educating them has kept the disaster or potential disaster from happening in my home. Now, as far as bullet stops are concerned, those things have come a long way as well. When I first started working at the bullet trap, our backstop was a slab of angled steel that every 2 weeks we went all the way back to the back, 25 yards away, and we took motor oil and dumped it all over it and used squeegees to push it up and down. Nowadays, you have ballistic foam that actually catches the rounds. You're not going to have a concern there either. Renting firearms. If a rented firearm walks out of a licensed FFL dealer, it is still a stolen firearm. That is still a federal crime. It's still a felony in the state of Texas. Renting it does not allow them to walk out of there with it. I'm running short on time, so I'm just going to thank you for this time to speak, and hopefully y'all approve it.
Thank you. I have one more card. Judy Brooks, I don't know if you wish to speak or not speak.
Like to speak, yes.
You would like to speak?
Yes.
Come on.
Hi, my name is Judy Brooks, and I live in Star Creek, which is obviously right across from what we're talking about. We've lived in Allen for 13 years. We moved here for Dallas. We love the city. We've watched it grow. We're somewhat pioneers in the newer part. There are 850 houses where we live. It's a very nice development. Across the street on Waters is another very nice development. I guess I don't feel like this is an appropriate business to have in our neighborhood. And it's disappointing and frustrating that it seems like the big businesses somehow win out over the neighborhoods and the people that live there. And our neighborhood is composed of retirees as well as families with babies all the way up to high school, college, and so forth. And I feel like the safety of everything, the lead, and then the traffic. The traffic is going to be unbearable. Right now, Waters is decent, but you add something like this with extra people all the time, and it's really going to affect everybody. So I'm definitely opposed against it. My husband is against it, and my daughter is against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's all the cards I have received that would like to speak. Is there anyone else wishing to speak at this time? If you'd like to speak, just come down to the microphone.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Cindy Coggins. I am a local realtor and resident here in Allen, Texas. I am here in support of Ally. I believe that this project will be good for our community and building. I do understand concerns of the local residents that are in that area. I am a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 6. Of course, my age, we were concerned with lead-based paint and toys. As a realtor, I still have to disclose lead-based paint in an addendum. I think that for folks that are concerned about the lead that is there, put a disclosure. Let them know. Disclose that that may be a concern. As far as things that Bo and his team will actually bring to our community, to our school system, to our fire department or our police department, I am in total support of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Matthew Miramontes. I am a resident of Allen. I am a Dallas firefighter paramedic. I have worked in various parts of the city for the past 5 years, from downtown Dallas to Pleasant Grove to South Dallas, even up in some of the nicer areas of the city. I have seen, much like I'm sure the other policemen and first responders behind me have seen, I have seen some of the absolute worst that people can do to one another, some of the worst evil that nobody should ever see. But the one thing that does stand out that surprised me was how very few, almost none in fact, involved any kind of gun violence. What I've learned through this job is that evil will not be withheld through any kind of legislation. And whether or not they use a firearm, a knife, a club, whatever it is, evil will always find a way to inflict itself on whoever it wants to inflict on. Of the thousands of calls I've made, I can honestly say less than 1% of them involved gun violence, and many of those guns were illegally acquired. To speak toward Bo and the business, I have known Bo for a while. He is an outstanding friend, a better businessman, but more than that, a phenomenal human being. One thing that Bo has done is put together a team of enthusiasts and people who are passionate about the firearms industry. And one thing about the firearms industry is, much like police, fire, and EMS, is that it's very tight-knit. We talk to each other. We may not always agree with one another, but we talk to each other. One great thing about the staff that he's put together is that we do have our own kind of intuition about who we sell to, making sure that we're not putting anyone at risk, putting people around us in danger. We do our best to educate and allow people to arm themselves against that evil that I spoke of earlier. Fortunately, Allen and the surrounding area doesn't have to deal with very much of that. But I am in favor of Ally Outfitters. I believe it's going to be great for the city, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak before I close the public hearing?
Mayor, Council, one thing that needs to be added. Out of all the massacres that have happened recently, almost every one of them has received or bought their rifle or gun legally. And I think that's very interesting. Somebody needs to say it. And I'm amazed that more people haven't stood against this thing. There's something very wrong with our system. And I live in that neighborhood, and I hate that it's coming in there.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else? Oh,
Hello. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I just wanted to say that I come from a small town called McAllen, Texas. It's on the border. Probably y'all don't know it, but very, very violent town. A lot of shootings by cartel, and I can definitely attest to the fact that they got those guns illegally. But I grew up shooting my whole entire life and, helped by people like Bo and Ally Outfitters. And that's allowed me to travel around the world and do many different things, more than 30 countries, shooting, meeting people. I've won numerous national championships. I'm the first woman ever to win a world champion overall, beating men and women. And in September, I'm going to shoot with the King of Spain in Spain. And pretty much my whole college education at A&M was paid for by shooting sports. And I wasn't going to speak, but I feel like I've been given so much opportunity by the shooting community, by Texas people, and I've seen, violence growing up, but that wasn't from anything that was bought legally. And I guarantee most of it was done with knives and bombings and not guns. And again, wasn't going to speak, but I just feel like I've been helped so much by these people that I feel like I want to give back and say that my life has absolutely changed. I work on a high-level team at Merrill Lynch in Dallas now. And, I was top of my class at A&M Business School, and I would have never reached those points in my life if it hadn't been for people like this. So I'm definitely in support because I want more young kids to be given the opportunity to do what I've done in my life. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? And the speakers that spoke afterwards, I think Lauren will probably bring you a card to fill out in case, so we can make sure we get your name and everything in the record. I know some of you said your address and all, but we need to have it for the record also. Anyone else? Seeing no movement and no one else wants to speak, we'll close the public hearing and turn the question back to the council. But before we start turning it over to council, I do have, and I'm not going to read all of these because I have a whole bunch of them, have one in opposition, one card that did not wish to speak, and I have 63 for but do not wish to speak. So, and all of them will be entered into the record. We'll enter them all into the record, but I just, for lack of time, I'm not going to sit and read them all, if that's okay. All right, questions back to the council at this time.
Mr. Bo, sorry, I forgot how to pronounce your last name. Please pardon me.
It's all right. No one else back here does either.
We heard a lot of information on both sides. Can you address the suicides that we're seeing happening at gun ranges? And I think that's where the rentals come in, is people coming in to rent, don't need a background check, and then can proceed to commit suicide.
When the evil of society was brought up earlier by, I think it was Matthew Miramontes, people are going, if they want to commit evil, they're going to. In my opinion, that's part of suicide as well. It's evil towards themselves. If someone comes in mentally unstable, people are trained to not allow them to go back to the range. So one of the levels of protection that we're going to have is basically looking at a person, just seeing what their state of mind is when they walk in. If someone is mentally committed to do something, they're going to do it, whether it's on our facility or another facility.
So you don't have any plans to run background checks on those customers?
We're not federally bound to do background checks on anyone who is renting a firearm. They just have to provide a license.
Okay. And I also understand that there have been quite a few accidents not necessarily inside the facilities, but in the parking lots of those facilities. Do you have any security measures that you're putting in place to prevent accidental firings in the parking lot?
In the parking lot, I don't know that all we can do is promote safe handling skills and training. So that's what we can provide. The rental firearms obviously are not going to be leaving, but if they bring their own, they can make the same type of mistakes there or in their own home. So I don't see any kind of correlation to more accidents at a range versus anywhere else.
Can I ask Mr. Kerbensaid a question?
Sure. Does anybody have?
Yes.
Just a sec. Hang on.
Sorry.
We'll come back in just a second.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Bo, you heard a lot of questions with regards to lead and the abatement of the lead and maybe even filtering. Can you go into a little more detail about that?
That's where I would bring Aaron Ludwig, who is our subject matter expert on that. Would you like that?
Yes, that would be great.
Absolutely no, and thank you for the opportunity. So lead is handled very seriously. I certainly understand the concerns that people have brought up today, and Ally has chosen the highest efficiency filter system that can be placed in a shooting range. So all of the air inside the shooting range will be circulated through that range at 75 feet per minute. So in a 25-yard range, you have 100% clean air every minute that comes through that range. All of that air will be circulated through HEPA filters, high-efficiency particulate filters, so you'll actually be breathing hospital-quality air, and any of the air that leaves the facility will have gone through that same filtration system. We will absolutely be releasing cleaner air than we brought in from outside from 121.
And what about the abatement of the lead?
And the abatement, so there's two places where it would be abated. Obviously the projectile itself, the bullet, which will be contained inside of my sealed total containment trap. It's a big steel chamber that holds that in, and it's connected to a negative pressure vacuum that holds all of that dust. All of that is filtered before it's put into barrels, and then inside the filters itself on the ventilation system. So all of this lead will actually be sealed. It will not be stored in the open. It will not be out into the air. It is sealed inside barrels and then transported away by my company.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Bo at this time? Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I noticed that next door there's a Lifetime Fitness with an outdoor swimming pool. Can you approximate how far away that outdoor swimming pool is from this parking lot?
Gosh, I can't. I can do a measure of several hundred feet, I guess, but several hundred feet.
Okay. I know. I didn't ask you earlier to prepare that information, so I understand.
No, and that's so we're looking. I'm going to use this as close to there. I'll just scroll through. But you're saying from this location to this location. This, for reference, is about this. It's about 300 feet across this creek. I know that from measuring that in the past. So I'm saying to the outdoor, you're probably about 350 feet from the far corner of the building to the outdoor. Oh, sure.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Ordinance number.
Ordinance number 3675-6-19.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 3675-6-19 to amend the development regulations of plan development number 40.
Sorry about that, Shelley. My mic wasn't on. Do you want me to start over? Let's just start over. I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 3675-6-19 to amend the development regulations of plan development number 40, corridor commercial, and adopt a concept plan and building elevations for the property generally located south of State Highway 121 and west of North Waters Road for Alley Outfitters.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve 3675-6-19. Does everybody understand what we're voting on this time? Questions or comments? This time.
I'd just like to make a quick comment.
Sure.
I can appreciate the interest in the shooting sports, but we do have a range already being built in Allen. We have a range for our officers to train in. This one makes no promise that it's going to actually produce a skeet shooting range for our students. It's going to be determined based on the success of the first phase. And I feel like this range is something that is outside of our zoning. We don't have any zoning that would allow it by right, and so we're not obliged to grant this request. I appreciate that the businessman is a great guy, but we have the opportunity to choose the best and highest use for this property, and in my opinion, this would not be it. So I would urge my colleagues to vote against it.
Any other comments? Cast your vote. All votes cast? We're good. All right, you're in business. Congratulations. Okay, but we have to move on, unfortunately. All right, let's move down to citizens' comments this evening. I have received 3 cards in citizens' comments, and the first one will be Dr. Richard Bush.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Richard Bush. I live at 1437 Rollins Drive on the west side. I've been a resident of Allen for the last 18 years, have a private practice here. I wrote down my information so I don't become overly verbose and run beyond 3 minutes. But I wanted to address the council today for one particular reason. In my opinion, there seems to be a possible conflict of interest in one of the council members when items of interest and concern come before the council for acceptance or rejection. I live in Place 3, which is Council Member Doherty's area, and I see there are issues and areas that need to be addressed, yet I see that when other issues come up, Ms. Doherty seems to be more concerned with those than she is with her own area. For example, when the issue of gun range coming to Allen was presented, she was the only member voting against it. To my knowledge, this vote was cast without any polling of us in Place 3 who are gun advocates and will enjoy having a facility that is closer than Plano or Frisco, where we can go and shoot safely and maintain our proficiency. Secondly, when the issue of Tractor Supply Store came to Allen, she voted against that as well, again, to my knowledge, without polling any one of us that we are aware of it was coming in. In my opinion, having a Tractor Supply Store handy, not only for some of the hardware that carried, but more importantly, to get my barbecue propane tanks refilled without having to drive to McKinney or Plano to do so, both of these would increase the revenue for the city. I don't know if that was thought of or not. So with each of these instances, there seems to be a conflict of interest on Ms. Doherty's presence in the council. She seems to be voting based on her own agenda and beliefs without actually finding out what the constituents in her area believe or feel. I have not received any flyers or questionnaires about these issues or been polled in any way. Ms. Doherty knows where I live, and I'm certain she passes my house several times weekly, if not daily. It's not her place to vote on these issues based solely on her own belief system or ideas. She was elected by the people, for the people, and she needs to serve and vote as the majority of the residents in Place 3 convey to her. Thank you.
Thank you. David Schaefer.
I'm here to speak about actions of one council member during the previous meeting and workshop. During the previous meeting, Ally Outfitters' plan to construct a range was up for approval. This council member questioned whether the company was going to act as babysitters in the parking lot to keep people from acting like idiots, and behaved as if renting an inanimate object for testing would somehow result in a spike in suicides. This council member's line of questioning lacked depth, common sense, and frankly showed a lack of true compassion and understanding for the mentally ill by using an unfortunate result of some mental illness in an effort to score political points. This council member improperly pushed a personal agenda and that of individuals who do not reside in the city of Allen without so much as a mention of Allen citizens, including those citizens who actually oppose the project. This council member proved to be completely out of touch with Allen citizens based on the obvious surprise on this individual's face when the room erupted in applause upon the passage of the project. However, the most egregious actions of that night were this council member's line of questioning of the chief of the Allen Police Department regarding license plate readers. This council member questioned the use of a specific contractor, alleging of all things hacking of this contractor's servers by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, then proceeded to claim the contractor was freely sharing the information with said federal agency, implying such actions to be improper. In doing so, this council member proved two things: ignorance to the realities of the 21st century and representation on the part of this council member to individuals who cannot even legally vote due to a lack of legal status in this country. As for this person's ignorance of the 21st century technology, allow me to explain something. In addition to being a licensed realtor, the bulk of my income stems from my career as a licensed private investigator. Right now, there are civilian vehicles driving throughout the Metroplex equipped with license plate readers. I have access to the information from those plate readers. Additionally, I have access to a plethora of information tied to said plates with far less stringent requirements than law enforcement. If any law enforcement agency were to request that I share that information, which I have access to, I would not hesitate to do so, regardless of who that agency is. So I'm asking you, if a glorified civilian such as myself has access to such information, why is anyone questioning law enforcement's access to the same information or their sharing of that information with other law enforcement agencies? I could say a lot more, however, I'm running short on time, so I'm going to end with this. If this council member cannot fulfill the duties of an elected city council member by representing the citizens of Allen and only the citizens of Allen, then I encourage this person to immediately resign, because California-style politics are not welcome in Allen, Texas.
Thank you. Dave Cornett.
I'm Dave Cornett. I live at 310 Willowbrook Drive here in Allen. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, my fellow citizens of the great city of Allen. 2 weeks ago here at our City Council meeting, we witnessed politics as usual and hidden agendas revealed. Before the City Council was a vote for Ally Outfitters with overwhelming support from the citizens of Allen, yet we had a City Council member ignore the wants and needs of citizens of our great city. Ms. Doherty, on your webpage, laurenforallen.com, you stated, and I quote, "As a City Councilwoman, I can promise you that the citizens of Allen will be my first, all caps, first priority. The residents are the ones who should be deciding the direction of our growth." I reckon we can classify that as promises made, promises broken. Then in the Dallas Morning News voter guide, the question was asked, why are you running for this office and why should voters choose you over your opponent? Your answer, and I quote, "I believe that City Council and really all levels of government should be for the people." You weren't for the people 2 weeks ago. I wonder if you ever were, or just for your agenda. Then you went on to state, lately our City Council doesn't seem to be listening as closely to what the residents want. Seems with you, the more it changed, the more it stays the same. Even on your CalPAC site, under my plan, your very first statement, give those in Allen who speak up on local issues a voice at the table. Yet over 60 cars were for the gun range, one was against. Several people spoke up in favor of, 3 that weren't even from Allen spoke against. So basically you sided with outsiders. It's doubtful at this point anything you say can be considered the truth. You clearly said what you needed to be said to get elected, but your actions have shown otherwise, and that you have a hidden agenda that is not in step with the residents of Allen. I'd say you either need to serve the citizens of Allen or step down and resign. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the Allen City Council this evening? I saw the cards I have received. Seeing no movement. Richard Bush. You want me to do it?
Good evening. I'm Richard Bush, 1437 Rollins Drive. I seem to be the reason why all of this hubbub is going on tonight. But I'd like to stand up here tonight and correct a lot of misnomers that people are thinking and saying. It started last week after the council meeting when some individual called John Tony decided to get on social media and spread a lot of slanderous comments about myself without even knowing me. He seems to be the Jim Acosta of fake news here in Allen. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a retired police officer. During that time, I carried a gun for many years. Prior to that, before a lot of you, and probably most of you out here, were ever born, 1969, I joined the United States Navy as a Navy SEAL. I carried a gun. I've carried a gun for well over 50 years. To me, a gun is like a American Express card. You don't leave home without it. I don't carry a gun to intimidate anybody, and I really don't believe that Lauren Doherty was intimidated by my carrying a gun in here. I carry a gun because I'm seven. Shut up, I'm talking.
Oh, whoa. Let's calm down right now. Hold it. Stop it right now. I've listened to enough so far. I've never had this happen. In my 23 years of marrying, this has never happened. You know, you can go ahead and finish, Mr. Bush, and I'm going to finish the cards, okay? But I've never called anybody down. This is ridiculous, okay? This is not council business. This is political actions in this room right now.
Right.
And that is not what we're here to deal with. And that's not what these 7 people are elected to do. Okay? So what you need to do is finish, and I'm going to finish the cards, and then I'll proceed. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm 72 years old. I'm too young to die, and I'm too old to be a victim. I carry a gun to protect myself, protect my wife, and protect anybody else who happens to be around me at that particular time who doesn't have the ability or the foresight to protect themselves. The scuttlebutt that's going around is that everybody wants to put a 30-06, 30-07 sign on the front of City Hall. I don't think that's legal. They want to make this chamber a soft target by saying don't carry guns in here. Well, I tell you, bad guys don't bother to check on rules and laws and everything else. If this was a soft target and somebody walked in here, they would do a lot of damage. And quite honestly, it'd be better off for those who are properly trained, like I am, and know how to carry a gun and use a gun, that a lot of people out here carry a gun. And again, I don't think Lauren Doherty was intimidated by my being in here the last time at all. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all the cards I have received on that particular subject. I do have one more card, but it is not on that particular subject of this evening. Unfortunately, the council is here to do business for the city of Allen, Texas, not to fight a political battle between candidates. Unfortunately, you have now taken up over an hour of the council's valuable time up here to make decisions what's best for the city. I mean, I can't regulate open carry. I mean, it's a legislative situation, not mine by choice. And unfortunately, I do enjoy Lauren Doherty sitting on the council. She brings a different kind of perspective. I don't agree with her a lot of things, but it's okay. It's okay. That's what the council's made up of. I think the more heads you put together, the better decision you come out with. So, but that's my opinion. But I want to end this situation right now. I want to make it to where this is not a political chamber. This is a council chamber. So after this evening, me personally, unless someone tells me, I will not take political cards again for the open meeting. So, I mean, we're here to talk on agenda items and things of concern to the citizens of Allen that have.
This is a concern of Allen.
And
Were you just upset when he asked for her resignation?
I mean, people have asked all kinds of things. I mean, I can't just say that that's not something they can do, but I'm asking them not to speak anymore for that situation either. Just like I'm asking for everybody to call the truce right here. Let us get back to council business.
Mayor, can I just ask one question? It's about...
No, ma'am, you can't ask it from your chair. You can come to the front and tell me who you are.
I'm happy to, I'm sorry. Mayor, my name is Sandy Jacobs, and I'll be honest with you.
I need an address.
Okay, my address is 7665 Pasatiempo Drive in Frisco.
Okay.
I'm here, Mayor, because I was on Denton County Commissioners Court for 24 years. I was on Carrollton City Council for a couple of terms. I've served in several different state governmental agencies. And what I'm asking, I understand your feeling about politics and been there before. But what I'd like to suggest to you, Mayor, if it's all right, is to put an agenda item, if nothing else, to vote on whether or not to put the prohibit gun sign on the door. I know that Denton County has it, Collin County has it, Plano has it, Carrollton has it, every hospital has it. There are even companies and drugstores that have it. And again, I'm not telling you how to vote or what to do, but we discussed the fact that that's politics. But that agenda item wouldn't be, and I think it would be appreciated.
And that
That's all,
would
Mayor.
be something
Thank you for
that we
listening.
would do. Thank you.